Alright, welcome. So today we have Vamana here. He has been requested to do an updated build video for Season 3 for quite some time now, especially considering that the last time I did a Vamana build video was almost a year ago, and a lot has changed for Vamana and the warrior meta in general. So let's get into it, starting with Conquest. Now for starting off for a Conquest, you definitely want to go with the starter item called Bluestone Pennant. Since Vamana, a majority of the time he is an ability based warrior, except the time when you're actually using your ultimate, but until then you're using your abilities to both clear the minion waves and provide a lot of poke damage with your abilities. And to help enhance that, you definitely want to go with the starter item. You notice this will boost up your ability damage for the early game by a lot, and it is a lot of poke damage too early on. So let's just go ahead and pick that up as our starter item. Now moving on to Boots, since he is more of an ability based warrior and you don't benefit a whole lot off of the attack speed until later on when you get your Frostbound Hammer or maybe even the Haste Fatalis, majority of the time you just want to go ahead and go with your warrior type of boots. Now from here, since the majority of the time when you're playing in the solo lane, you're fighting against another physical god, and therefore it's pretty common that you see people do this. They'll go ahead and pick up a physical protection item right after their boots. And the most popular physical protection item I would definitely have to say is the Breastplate of Valor, since it's so good. It provides with a lot of physical protection to ensure you won't get poked out by the enemy solo laner. Majority of the time, the enemy jungler is probably physical, and so that way when you get ganked by those two, you're not getting, blown up instantly. So with this amount of high physical protection, and also for the case of Vamana, due to his passive, the more physical protection you have equals more physical power. And as well as, since Vamana is one of those more ability based warriors, this cooldown reduction will certainly help out Vamana in the long run. So we're gonna go ahead and pick that up. If you don't want to go into this and you still want to go into another physical protection item, some other solid ones might be, maybe you want Hide Enemy Lion for the case that you're laning against a maybe an assassin that's very auto attack based, or maybe a hunter that they've been building into crit, like maybe Artemis and whatnot. That's not too bad. Some people might rush the Height of the Urchins, so that way they can start getting stacks early on, so when they make their presence known in the team fights, they have a few stacks going on, so that way they have enough protection against both physical and magical. But pretty much the majority of the time you're just going into Breastplate of Valor. Now from here, for both of the case of the fact that Breastplate of Valor offers no HP, and HP is very valuable if you want to be tanky, and as well as Vamana's passive, if you take a look at it, the regeneration on Vamana's passive is off of percentage based on your health. So the more health you have, the stronger your regen will be. So between that and you are Vamana, and if you want to make use out of your ultimate, besides just getting, HP, regeneration and whatnot, you definitely want to go into a stick and item, and one that achieves all of that. It gives you HP and allows you to stick to targets easily. It's definitely the Frostbound Hammer. So once you pick this up, you have a good combination of both physical protection and HP to complement that. You have more physical power, and the passive is super useful for sticking to targets on your ultimate. It's definitely a core, like no matter on what your goal is for your build, if you want to make good use out of your ultimate, you have to find a way to stick to your targets, whether it's Haste Fatalis alone, or with a combination of Frostbound Hammer. Or maybe you just want Frostbound Hammer and not Haste Fatalis, and maybe you can go ahead and pick up Sprint, and you can use a combination of, pop Sprint and then go into your ultimate, and then you have, a few seconds of bonus movement speed. You also have your Frostbound Hammer, and don't forget, if you're going to chase down targets and you're able to land your 3, this will also slow the movement speed of your targets by 30%. So you have a few ways to catch up to your enemy, and then you go ahead and using your ultimate. So after you go into your Frostbound Hammer, the last 3 item slots, these 1, 2 here, and then of course the item slot to replace your starter item, that is all up to you on personal preference. So in the case of if you're noticing you're having trouble against magical gods, then this might be the opportunity. To actually go into a magical protection item. And one of the best ones out there right now is the Borg of Hope. Good magical protection, good health, not too expensive, and the passive is pretty damn good too. Another one would be to go into is maybe your support is behind and they can't afford it yet, and then maybe you can help out the team by picking up Hardwood Amulet. You can maybe go into that. Of course, anti-healing, for that case, Pestilence is your best bet. Or if you want a bit of both physical and magical protection, this is a fine enough time to go ahead and do that. So you can go ahead and invest into a Spirit Robe, or if you want the more expensive version, you can go into Mantle of Discord. Again, cooldown reduction is super helpful on Vamana. Or maybe you're on the winning team and you want to go ahead and just kind of snowball your protections and your overall tankiness, then you can go ahead and even pick up Hide the Urchin this late into your build. It's perfectly fine as long as you're in the winning team, getting plenty of kills and assists. Totally up to you. In the case if you want to go into Haste Mentalis and Frostbite Hammer to make sure that there's no way your enemy's outrunning you and being able to get away from you when you're using your ultimate, then you can go ahead and do it now, and then you can go into a protection item right after that. Or you can do a vice versa. You can go into protections first and then Haste Mentalis. It's all up to you on how you want to build your Vamana. But for now, let's just go into something kind of standard, a little bit tanky. Let's go into Borg of Hope. Then we can go ahead and pick up Mantle of Discord. And then you can go ahead and sell your starter item for whatever item you may need. So in the case if you want to help strengthen your basic attack damage when you go ahead and you go into your ultimate, you start just stomping on people, I would recommend going to Kin Size for that. It's a super strong basic attack oriented item. It will definitely help out your auto attacks. If you don't want to go into that, you can go into some other ones, maybe Executioner if you want some penetration. I've even seen some crazy auto attack Vamana builds where they even have the oboe included in it. As well as for Vamana and just being a warrior in general, there are a couple, I would say utility items that you can pick up into. For one, Ritual Dagger, really low cost, offers a lot of good stats, all of them in which are really good for Vamana. Even the passive, for example, increases your relic time, so if you go ahead and use your sprint, it's going to last in a 50% longer. And the other utility item, of course, being the classic Winged Blade. Again, very cheap, even cheaper than the Ritual Dagger, provides a lot of HP. Again, all stats are really useful. And the passive, again, a little bit more situational. Some team comps have more slows than others, so if you're fighting against a team comp that has obviously a lot of slows and it's really preventing you from chasing people down outside of your ultimate, then this is definitely the utility item to go into. But for now, let's just go into something else. We can end it with like Kens or whatever. Again, Vamana builds pretty much vary based on your personal preference and whatever the match comes to. And lastly, what would you build in the case of a more casual game mode like Arena and Clash and so on and so forth? Well, it's pretty much the same build in almost the same exact order, except you just don't go into your starter item. So you just go into your boots. Then you can go into protection item right after your boots. Maybe you don't want a Breastplate of Valor because maybe you're in Arena and the enemy team has more magical gods, or even if they have a well-balanced team, you're still fighting more magical gods than you would in the early stages of the game for a conquest. So and therefore you can just go into like a hybrid item, like maybe like start building Hide the Urchin right after your boots, and then from here you can go into your other items like Frostbite Hammer. And then again, the same, it's pretty much the same items as Conquest. It doesn't really change too much from game mode to game mode. And finally, getting into relics. Now, as far as warriors in the solo lane, it's pretty common to go into teleport as your very first relic. Obviously allows you to get back from your fountain to the solo lane a lot faster because it is a pretty long walk on foot. But let's say if you went into teleport and the enemy solo laner didn't, that means you have an extra advantage of getting back to lane faster once every 80 seconds, so you can be more aggressive, you can have your minions push further up, you can get more tower damage in, you can maybe even steal more blue buffs, just based off of having teleport and the enemy solo laner doesn't. And as far as the secondary relic to go into for Conquest, it's whatever your team might need. Maybe there's a lot of healing on the enemy team, in that case maybe Curse. Or if you have the freedom, maybe you want to go into sprint so that way you can sprint first and then go into your ultimate for additional movement speed, or whatever the case may be. And then again, as far as the casual game modes, majority of the time you won't need teleport and Clash or anything else like that. So in that case, you can just go into both sprint and maybe a curse or shell or whatever you may need. And so that's going to wrap up for the build video. Hopefully it was helpful in providing you with ideas on what to build for Vamana. Again, if you're maybe new to this channel or new to this series more catered to the newer players to Smite or to the particular god I'm covering. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.